We were out running. I was running with a peer running club that I'm an active member of. That had flooded, so all of the trails were completely flooded. I picked the route that day, and the route took us to the point where I had a grand mal seizure right in front of the hospital. Well, they actually took me by ambulance to the emergency room where they did a scan and they found a tumor 6 centimeters by 2 centimeters by 1 centimeter. So it was a fairly large. I was 41 at the time, had 2 little kids, 9 and 11. And so then they sent us to Sioux Falls, and Sioux Falls said, this is not something we can do here. Why don't you just keep going on to Mayo? Because they could do interoperable MRIs at Mayo. They didn't have that ability in Sioux Falls at the time. And so we took a couple trips over there to get ready, and then I had a surgeon there that did a craniotomy. During the process, did 2 intraoperative MRIs to make sure they had gotten it all. I then I came home, healed up my brain, and then did 6 weeks of radiation and daily chemo at the same time. And then I came home and did 6 additional rounds of chemotherapy, so 5 days every 28 days with a chemo drug. And then after that, it reoccurred, and so we started again that 5 days every 28 days, but I was allergic to the chemo. And so I went through this process to be desensitized and then take just the daily dose. And I did that for another year. And that was 4 years ago this November, was my last treatment. It was tolerable on a daily dose. And in fact, we spent a lot of time discussing whether or not I should go off of it, because it just felt like if I went off, it would come back. And so we made the joint decision with my oncologist, Heidi McKean, out of Sioux Falls to just go off. Best decision. No recurrences since. So this July, I'll be a 7-year brain cancer survivor. So there had been times previous to that where I felt a little lightheaded or dizzy, but usually with laying down, it would seem to resolve itself. And there were a couple of runs earlier that year in the heat where I came home and I just felt awful. Because obviously what happens is your brain heats up, it swells, and that puts pressure on everything. Cancer can be the best thing that happens to you or the worst thing. It's kind of what you make it and your attitude that goes along with it. Well, I feel like there are a lot of lessons that you can learn from cancer, how to be compassionate to people, how to talk to people that have cancer, how to help people in their darkest days.